Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jacob, and welcome back to Dress Rehearsal, the podcast where Broadway and fashion take center stage, and we dive deep on the roles that shape us on stage and off. Today's guest is none other than Kim Exum. She is the longest running Nabulungi in Book of Mormon history. And if you're on a Book of Mormon kick, might I recommend our episodes with Cody Jamison Strand, the longest running Elder Cunningham in history, and our very first episode with Thomas Dolger, who is the understudy of Elder Price. Kim also originated the role of Alpha Smith in A Wonderful World, the Louis Armstrong Musical on Broadway, and lives her life by the Nina Simone quote, "An artist's duty, as far as I'm concerned, is to reflect the times." Kim serves as a co-host on Broadway Black's critically acclaimed Off Book, the Black Theater podcast, and continues to uplift theater created by a diverse range of voices. Please bear with us. I know this episode has a little bit of audio issues, but we tried to make it as listenable as possible on the back end. Please enjoy. This is Kim Exum on Dress Rehearsal. And welcome Kim Exum to the podcast. How are you, Kim?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. And the first question we ask every guest is how you got bit by the theater bug.
I was, I think, 12 years old, and I had a choice between swimming or my mom had found this theater thing. And I wanted to stop swimming because I didn't want to get my hair washed all the time.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'll just do the theater thing. And I tried it, and I did not like it. And my mom was like, well, I paid for 2 shows, so you have to do the 2 shows. So I did the first one, which was a Christmas show. We did like a Scrooge kind of show, and then we did a Black History show, and then they were holding auditions for Once on This Island, which at the time I'd never heard of. And I got in, so I ended up doing that, and that's the show where I kind of fell in love with theater, and I've been doing it ever since.
Okay, problematic. They should not have done Once on This Island, but I was in Once on This Island as a kid. Played Papa Gay.
Okay.
Let me tell you, what a role to give a young gal who was in a production that should not be doing Once on This Island. And then when I was graduating high school, it was the year it was on Broadway. And I remember I saw it at Circle in the Square and wept. And I was like, this is the circle of life. Like, this is what art is about. And I feel like a lot of people, Once on This Island was like a turning point for them.
No, absolutely. I also saw the production. I was pregnant at the time. And so I remember, I felt a lot of feels when I was pregnant. I either felt the shows or I fell asleep. That's kind of was like that's what was happening when I was that year when I was watching shows. That was a really good production, for sure.
Good. And I'm obsessed with like the range of Aronson Flaherty from Ragtime to Once on This Island to Seussical.
I love Seussical.
Seussical, the musical.
Yeah, that was my first professional job in New York City. Out of New York City. I did a TheaterWorks production back when TheaterWorks existed, and I did like a tour of Seussical the musical up and down the East Coast.
As you should. Right. And I heard that you had a fashion lifestyle blog in college before like blogging was even huge. And so I'm curious for you when you realized that like fashion could also be an extension of your creativity.
I think I can't really remember not having it be that way for me. I remember being like a little kid and my grandmother had gotten me these houndstooth pants and I thought they were so ugly and I refused to wear them. And I remember having very strong opinions about clothing when I was a little girl. My mom told me that I had these like red Nikes and this jean jacket that I wore all the time. And so other than, like, I wore a uniform to school for some of my school life, but other than the uniform, and other than, like, my mom making sure I was styled appropriately for, like, events, I remember having really intense opinions about clothing and my hair, everything. I got to pick out, like, even, I wore glasses in 2nd grade. I picked out my own glasses, and, yeah, so there was never really a separation for me. I guess I was just kind of allowed to participate in my own look, so I participated. In high school, I did like a fashion column for my school paper, And then in college with my best friend at the time, we had started a blog called Queenie Valentine. I have no idea how we came up with the name. I think it's still out there. I think it's queenievalentine.blogspot.com, back when people had blogspots. And we blogged about fashion, we blogged about music, and just other like college kids stuff. But it was a time. It was fun.
I feel like people that grew up with a uniform, it's an act of rebellion to get to dress yourself, like on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I had one too, and I had to wear khakis and a collared shirt every single day, kindergarten to 12th grade. And so the
Oh
minute I
God.
got to college, I was like, oh, this is my moment. I've been waiting to bust out and like figure out what I want to wear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You're an only child too, right?
Yes.
Okay, so go with me on this. I feel like because being an only child, you don't have someone like ahead of you to be like, oh, that's cool. That's like this, that. Like it forces you to be an individual in a way that is so helpful going forward. And I'm curious if that was like your experience, because I feel like not having a blueprint of like what you should do, like with an older sibling, allows you a lot of room to just be like, okay, I'm figuring out me.
I guess I never thought about that like in that way. I mean, I had an older cousin who was Megan was only like is only she's not dead. She's alive. She is a year older than me, and I loved her so much as a kid. Like was very I see like my daughter. I have an only child as well, and I can see her putting this emphasis on friendship and admiration within that I remember having as a kid. But I guess it made me I kind of like went my own way in a sense. Like I don't know how it would be, but maybe it did. Like maybe I did have more, freedom because like I wasn't getting hand-me-downs per se from people, and I also didn't grow very quickly. So I accumulated a lot of clothing as a kid because I stayed the same size for a very long time.
You had a wardrobe going.
Yeah, essentially, the only thing that really grew on me were like my feet grew. And like I mean, of course, like my legs, I grew eventually. I'm not still like 3 feet, but yeah, I grew a lot slower than most kids. So I was able to like pull things from I was able to wear my clothes for longer and figure out how I wanted to wear them.
So funny enough, my mom is also an only child, and so we're the
Oh.
same way. And
Mhm.
I wonder for you, do you feel like you're seeing the way that you show up, like with your fashion, with your individuality in your daughter now? Like, are you seeing that like that has been like such an example for her?
Yeah, well, from the start, everybody was like, "I can't wait to see how you dress her." I dressed her when she was a baby, but even then, it became too effortful. Like she was born in April, she was a summer baby, so she was just mostly in onesies.
Right.
Like I didn't really like you see on Instagram people really dress their kid up. I never really did that. And then she's very opinionated, has a big personality as well. So from the time she could pick stuff, I let her pick stuff. I try to make, set parameters like you cannot wear this outside or like you have to dress for the weather.
Mhm.
But yeah, she's got very big opinions about her clothing and her hair, her look. She's very girly. So
Okay.
like I at the time when I had her and even now like my day-to-day style is more kind of like tomboy or like more like street urban-y like
Yeah.
streetwear kind of stuff. That's not her. Like Ezzy wants to wear a skirt, lip gloss. She gets very anxious when I put makeup on for self tape. She wants to do it too. Or if she sees me getting dressed to go somewhere, she wants to look pretty too and do it too, which can be kind of annoying. But, letting her, because it's like I'm trying to do something for work and you're like, you need to go to sleep. And she's like, please, can I have some blush, mommy, please? So yeah, I would say that I kind of set it up that way. I never had an idea of what I thought she should look like,
Mhm.
which I feel like a lot of parents do. I didn't really notice until I started observing how other children dress, and they're a lot more put together. They're a lot more like lots of names, like they dress their kids in labels and stuff. I never really found see the point in that. They mess clothes up so easily.
They grow out of it in 2 seconds.
And they grow out of it. Like Ezzy's a slow grower too, so she'll have stuff for a minute. So for her, I feel like it would make sense for me to maybe like spend a decent amount of money, but I'm not spending more than like I might spend like $100 on a coat for you, like a winter coat. And for her, a winter coat can last like 2 or 3 years. But yeah, I'm not about to spend like $50 on a piece of clothing for a child, unless it's like a shoe.
Okay, yes. And I see all these little kids with little baby Uggs, and I'm like, for what reason that baby Ugg is going to fall on the subway or that baby Ugg is going to be outgrown in 2 seconds? And I guess it is really special to know that she's not just mimicking the way you're dressing. Like, she has a sense of self, even at like such a little age, that like, I want to be a diva in this way. And it's not just like mimicking,
Right.
which is cool. Tiny little people have like such a sense of that. I feel like you've spoken a lot about your time in the beginning of Book of Mormon when you found out you were pregnant. And I'm curious because the whole quote of like, it takes a village to raise a child feels so relevant. And so the generosity that you've experienced in the industry as a mother and how you now show up for other actors having had that experience.
Yeah, they were great to me. I'm forever grateful for how amazing the company of Book of Mormon was for me, from the people all in the Broadway building to the tour to folks at company management to like our some of our lead producers. They were fantastic. And I find that, I mean, in Broadway I felt very isolated because there's no setup, there's no guarantee. There's like, you're covered federally, like, they can't fire you because you're pregnant,
Right.
but you don't get there's no aftercare plan. Like, you go, you have your baby on your own, essentially, because there's no maternity leave, no one's paying you, and then you come back and you hope that they'll sign you for another contract after you complete, your contract. That is scary, to have that kind of job insecurity while also creating a life that is dependent on security. So I'm very grateful that that worked out so miraculously. I actually haven't thought about that in a while. And that was like nothing short of a miracle that that was able to happen for me and my little family. But yeah, it has definitely informed how I show up for other mothers in the community, or new mothers, or my peers that are mothers. Like, I don't hesitate in saying, "Oh, I'll watch your kid for you," or they can come over here. I'll take the baby, or what do you need? Do you need to sit with you at an audition or sit with you in rehearsal? Like, no problem, because mothers across the board lack support in or out of the theater industry. Our business is just so uh, it's so up and down that, like, it's more likely for a theater mother, if they're not in a Broadway show, like, to, or even if they are, to not have their baby in like daycare. So let's say you do have a job at night and you've got your kid at, got a nanny for the evening, but you have an audition in the day. So then what do you do? Then you're relying upon, and your family's probably not here, you're relying upon your friends to, like, come sit with. I mean, there's so many people who came and sat with Ezzy while I just went into a room for 10 or 15 minutes. They would literally come out of their homes to meet me and just sit with her while I went in and sang a few bars. So I try to be that person for any type of mother I meet, regardless of, the industry. But being in theater definitely taught me about how to, like, trust my community and rely on it, and open my eyes to see that there is community there. There are people that are willing to help you. You just have to accept the help.
And I think that's the hardest part. Like, it's hard to know that the way you would show up for other people, people are happy to do that back. And that feels really tricky. And I think you were in a really special position that you were in Book of Mormon for nearly 8 years. And so watching her grow as you're like continuing on is really special, to have like a big Broadway job during those like formative years. And on the flip side of that, I'm curious, when you are in a show for that many years, I'm sure you were craving creativity in other places. And do you feel like fashion allowed you to harness that creative energy, or like how were you staying creative?
I actually felt, like Charlotte says in Sex and the City, they say, like, when do you feel love in your marriage? And Charlotte says, every day. Every day. That's how I felt about being in Book of Mormon. I felt creative every day. I mean, of course, there were times where I got bored. I didn't want to go to work or whatever, but I never felt non-creative or stifled by the show. I always found new ways to do stuff. I always listened also. I think it gives you an opportunity to listen, which is all acting really is. But those nerves, I mean, they don't go away. They come, anxiety comes best, another conversation. Anxiety does creep back in a different capacity. But for the parts of the show where I wasn't super anxious, where I wasn't singing, or, you know, sometimes I would enter into the white room. That's a whole other thing. But for the most part, listening to my fellow actors, they were different every day. Like, it would be Cody every day, but he's a different Cody today than he is yesterday. And being able to engage in that way felt creative for me. I don't think I ever took for granted that I was a working actor in New York City. I don't think I ever took for granted what the opportunity was for me, and I'm glad that I was in a role and in a position where I could find the creativity. I consider that to be a great privilege. But fashion has always been an outlet for me. I mean, I'm also not the type of person, like, you're not going to see me dressed to the nines. I mean, as you see me now. You're not going to see me dressed to the nines every day. I feel like I dressed, as a younger person, I dressed a younger person. I put more effort in. But as a mom, I don't be having time, because my putting on an outfit for me is creativity. It's a process. Like, I can't plan it. It has to be, I can plan it to say, like, oh, I want to wear this dress to this event with these shoes. But the whole ritual of it is definitely like a process. Like, I struggled getting clothes out like the day before for school. When I did go to school where I could wear my own clothes, like, you know, your mom might say, lay out your clothes. It was hard for me because I wanted to discover what I was wearing. But yeah, fashion continued to be a creative outlet for me for even while I was doing Mormon, but I did have less time for it because, you know, the show is going and going and going and going and going.
Yeah. And it's like a wheels are turning thing. It's like when people ask you, oh, what do you want to have for dinner next week? Like, I don't know. I'm going to be a whole different person next week. Like,
yeah,
I have to know the vibe of the day or what's going on. And I feel like that's when you find the coolest things, is when you just like blank slate, look in your closet and you're like, what the hell is in here? And we play with. And like, if you have that time, it is just like, just rediscovering what you already have, because you don't need to always go and get new.
Right.
And since you were in the show for so long, how did you navigate finding your identity outside of the show once you knew it was time for the next adventure?
Well, I didn't really have much time. I kind of was doing double duty. Okay. Not kind of. I was doing double duty. I was doing rehearsal for a new Broadway show in the day, going to Book of Mormon at night, and then I was like doing that until tech. So I didn't really have No, I didn't. I didn't really have a minute until after the show closed. And then that has been challenging. That has been weird. Yeah, I'm not gonna hold you. It's been that's still kind of weird. It's hard. Like, also, like, I can't shop like how I want to shop. Like, I like quality, and it costs money, and I don't have that anymore. So that, like, all my ads on Instagram are like, sale $500. Like, you know, I can't afford to get the thing on sale that I could have bought, you know, full price at one point if I really wanted it. So that's been kind of hard. So much of my adult identity, my true adult identity, like I got Mormon at like 27, 20, something like that. So much of my adult identity has been, I'm on Broadway, and I'm not, you know, and that's hard to kind of go from a lot of something into another opportunity. Now, I wasn't delusional about Wonderful World. I didn't really think that it was going to run for a very long time. I was hoping to at least get a year. You know, we did not get a year, but yeah, I kind of held on to I was talking about this on my close friend's Instagram today, this idea that like I was gonna get something within the year. Like my goal was like I'll just get something in August.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. Like I booked smaller gigs throughout the year, but there's been this kind of journey of trying to figure out like, well, what do I do now? How do I pivot this? Like I can't just keep waiting on Broadway to have an opening. And then the Broadway stuff I was getting requested for, it didn't really sit right with me ethically, so I had to decline the appointments. And now it's kind of pivoting to the next thing. So I'm exploring like the possibility of teaching. Hopefully, maybe that's the avenue I can go down. But and also realizing like I can't really do these regional jobs where they're not paying any money unless the job is with a prominent director or has a pathway to Broadway or a path something. I can't do that. I'm a mom and $700 a week just isn't gonna cut it. So yeah, fashion wise and style wise, it's been sometimes comforting to like dress up and put something on and feel like home again in myself and the stuff that I've curated over the years. And then most days I'm just like this. Like I'm dropping her off, I'm picking her up, and I'm going to whatever her thing is, and then I'm so tired, I'm laying down, and yeah, so it's been, I don't know, like I guess depressive chic, maybe.
So I had a similar situation where I went through layoffs, and you go from having like a prominent brand name that kind of shields you, and you don't realize it in the moment, but like how much that validates you. And I remember for the period of time before I found a new job, the fact of like introducing myself to new people was so anxiety inducing, because I was like, oh, I don't have some external validation to back up who I am. I'm the exact same person that was the day before and the day after, but you don't have like a bigger system behind you, which is such a bizarre thing to explain to people and like to navigate, because you now know forever that you will bounce back. Like you will find something that will have that external validation again, but you do feel like when you meet, especially in the industry, sometimes you feel like people are responding to you differently. And it's such a weird, bizarre thing to do, because you're only one yes away from your next opportunity. So like,
That's what they say.
supposedly, but you know what I mean? So in the moment, you're just like, how do I get to the next thing? How do I get to the next thing? But I don't know. I look back on that time fondly, but also
Yeah.
you get a better sense of self of like, oh, all of this is noise, and this is the actual part that matters, and I'm still me. But as an actor, that like instability is so jarring all the time.
It's very strange. I mean, I think I've also just been walking in delusion in a sense, like not bad delusion, but kind of like, oh, maybe I'll be one of those people that goes from show to show. There's so many people I know like that, and there's people I know that are not like that, and there's people I know who were struggling last year and are having their big break this year. And there's people who've been close to their break or thought it was their break, and it's not. I mean, that happened to me, and it's not their break. And then it's like, yeah, like this idea of introducing myself to another industry again is really freaky. Like, I am applying to be a teacher. I know how to audition, but like I haven't gone on a proper interview in years.
Right.
Even like I was thinking about maybe having to go into the service industry. If all else fails, that's what I'm gonna have to do.
Right.
And I haven't waited a table. I haven't answered to like a manager in that capacity in years, and having to like, the idea of having to sit and do that again feels so unnatural.
Yeah.
But, one has to survive, so.
And I think being honest about that, like Alex Brightman talked about how he was a barista like the day before he started leading School of Rock. Like there's a sense of like confidence in yourself that like you are scrappy enough, like that you're going to figure something out that's going to work.
Yeah.
If it's like changing your perception of yourself for like a minute.
That's true. I do feel like it was easier to do in my in my 20s and when I
Sure.
didn't have a kid, you
Totally.
know, I was really scrappy and I'm like, I'll do what I gotta do. I don't care. You know, like I
Right.
was, but now it's like, okay, so what kind of job can I get? How can I navigate pickup? Am I gonna have to hire somebody to do all these things? If I have to hire somebody, then I have to definitely have to make a certain amount of money because I have to pay the
Right.
person I'm hiring. Or, you know, how, I don't know, the navigate, and also I think my ego has gotten, I don't want to say it's gotten, maybe it has gotten bigger. I don't know. But
I
it's,
think it's allowed to be. There is external validation that that is fair.
yeah, like I was looking at jobs the other day and there was like ushering at a theater. I'm like, I can't do that.
No.
Like, I cannot usher at a theater. And then I mean, I can, but like, how would that feel? How would that look? How would I be perceived? And this is an industry that is very unforgiving with its perception of you. Like, I I was 19 last August and nobody was saying nothing about how old I looked. And then fast forward to earlier this year and people telling me I look too old for some, I look too old and I look too young for something. So, yeah, it's like it's a whole bunch of stuff kind of, you know, jiggling around in there that I didn't quite have to think about when I was employed.
Which is fair. And I think in these moments, that's when community kind of grounds you. And
Mhm.
I know you've been involved with Black Women on Broadway and hosted your own podcast, Off Book. How have those communities kind of buoyed you through this industry?
Well, Off Book was produced by Broadway Black, which is a
Okay.
different organization. Off Book is an interesting, was an interest. I mean, technically, I'm still a podcast host on Off Book,
Okay.
but in the past, it's been like an interesting outlet to be able to, I don't know, kind of like critique and explore and just talk shit like with other
Mhm.
theater makers. Black Women on Broadway is cool. It's a nice event. It's a beautiful event. It's a very special event.
Stylish parties.
Yeah, I look forward to it because I like to dress up too.
Hmm.
So that's definitely an opportunity to like wear something cool. The first year, I definitely wore something I already had in my closet and just kind of jazz it up. But it was the first year, it was like an award ceremony kind of thing, which it still is, but it was small. And it was the first one. It was a little different, but I went to the one this past year and I was like, oh yeah, I gotta put something together.
Uh-huh.
So that was fun, being able to like whip up a cool look and feel important and special and like you matter for an evening. Yeah, it was nice to also like have an outfit that made me feel like, oh yeah, I matter. Like, this is, I'm supposed to be here. So those have been both been very like affirming experiences, I'd say.
And it's people just to trade stories with and be like, oh, I'm not the only one that has gone down this spiral because this has happened.
Yeah.
And I've also heard you express interest in like supporting other people's visions and maybe one day being on the other side of the table. And
Hmm.
going back to perceptions, you look at someone like LaShawne's who has completely redefined this chapter of her career because she didn't want to wait for the phone to ring anymore. And so I'm curious for you, like in a dream world, the type of work that is inspiring you and that you would want to see produced.
Definitely more work by just people of color in general, by black folks and non-black folks, by women. I would say also like work that kind of disrupts the form a little
Mm,
bit, like the traditional structure. Even though I do have a hankering for, I love golden age musical theater and golden age movies in
which is
general.
very good.
So like, yeah, I love like a good revival and I love that olden day feel, but I feel like I also enjoy supporting new work that kind of exposes me to what theater can be.
Hmm.
Like I went and saw Practice off Broadway, the play, and it has like it has a first act, an intermission, and a second act. But how it gets you there and the framing of the second act, I thought was very interesting. Or like this idea that like we were at intermission, but for a minute we didn't know that we were in intermission,
That's so cool.
and we were kind of a part of the play in that sense. So I guess new work that is like redefining the structure of theater. I would like to see more political theater that's not so nail on the head. and this is no shade to like, you know, anything like Liberation. I hear is great. I haven't seen it. Actually, I was just talking to my friend about trying to get a ticket to see it. I really want to see it. So not necessarily like that. That's not a good thing. I think that's a great thing, but I think leaning more into like allegorical kind of tales.
Like a Wicked.
Yeah.
Taking the morals in a way that like Wicked can apply to anything over the years because it's whatever experience you want to plug into it.
Right. And speaking of Wicked, like I find I'm not a big fan of Wicked the music. I'm a big fan of The Wizard of Oz. Big fan. Wicked, I read the book and I was like, this woman, I remember reading the book and was like, this is a black girl. This is an activist. And then I saw the show and I knew that she wasn't going to be black because it had been on Broadway forever by the time I saw it. And I saw it and it was great. And I felt like Glinda was the star when I saw it. I was like, this is the track. Like, this to me is the fun. Like, this is the golden ticket is Glinda, this comic relief here, the villain kind of. And then when I saw the movie and I saw Cynthia Erivo in the part, it really opened another world for me. It became a very deeply moving, emotional piece. Just knowing that there's a black woman playing this role and understanding that she knows what it means to feel like one of one, you know, when you're in these white spaces and white rooms and you're, you know, and I think by meticulously thinking out how a play would look when we insert a black body in there, not for just the sake of doing it, I think that that's also work that I would like to see. You know, we revive something and we can keep it the same and we can put different people in to see how that changes the story, but with, you know, intentionality and with safety.
I had a boss once say, like, if I look around the room and all of my employees look the exact same, then that's the worst possible scenario. And I think it's from the creative lens. You see so many short stories about Black people not created by them and have the creative team behind it. And so I think having the lens throughout is really important because it's not helpful for other people to tell people how to feel and what
right
it looks like.
And I'm not an advocate for, you know, no white people tell whites. Like, I think that, you know, creativity really has no bounds. But I think that sometimes when we're executing an idea, of course we're going to have blind spots. And that's why it's important to have Black bodies or Asian bodies or Latinx people in the room so that we can try and navigate those blind spots together. And I also think that it creates an opportunity for artwork to be more collaborative, which is what it is at its core. Right. You know, for it to be received and perceived in all these different ways so that we can actually communicate what we're trying to dole out to our audience.
And with A Wonderful World, I'm curious if you kind of felt like you were able to navigate the space differently because it was almost all people of color in the cast and like what that experience felt to you.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm always very me. Like I'm always gonna say what I want to say. Of course, like I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but if I think that there's something wrong, then I'm gonna say it. I've done all Black shows before as well, so pre-Mormon. So I've been, and I grew up doing theater with all Black people. So doing theater with all white people was more of a shift for me, which I experienced in college. And then, you know, of course, Mormon was half and half. So I've never really been in a cast of like, it's all white folks and just me. But yeah, it felt, I mean, there were definitely things about being a Wonderful World, being the majority that were nice. And it was interesting seeing the white people kind of navigate these cultural differences that they don't necessarily have to do in the shows that they go in, that Black people have to do all the time. For us, it's more subconscious. Like you just code switch or you just whatever, because that's just how you navigate, you know, the world. But seeing white people have to do it was interesting. But yeah, it didn't feel It didn't feel any like different per se. It did feel like, I guess, a homecoming of sorts. But my hope for Wonderful World was that it would be like Mormon, like an environment where I felt like I was creating relationships and, having a good time. That's like my number one priority for
Okay.
work is having a good time and creating these memories and relationships with my coworkers. I think that's the main thing that attracts me to theater is being able to do that.
And I mean, the industry is so hard. If you're not having fun, why do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there are so many reasons not to because of like just constraints in the world. So you have to really love it and you have to enjoy yourself. Because if you're not, it's like, why are you putting yourself through this?
Absolutely. Like, it's hard. Theater is hard. It's hard to sustain in this type of industry. It's hard some days, but I definitely I'm not the girl from the reality TV show who's like, I'm not here to make friends. Like, that's not me. I'm like, oh, hey, like, I'm so interested in getting to know people in whatever capacity they want me to get to know them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm definitely here for a good time, for sure. So,
I think you can always tell something about a person with how long they've had their friends and
mm-hmm,
like how people show up for them because it's like, oh, if you're investing in people everywhere you go, you're collecting people and you're always going to have people rooting for you. But there's
mm-hmm.
people that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Oh, I like that.
I have one last question for you.
Okay.
What do you hope your signature stamp on the industry is? Kind of what you want to leave people with when you enter a room.
I think I want to leave people with, like, it's not really that serious. Like, it's fun, it's impactful, but it's not. I got this great note when I was in college from a grad student who was, what is she? She was evaluating my work. Mm-hmm. And she goes, stop. Like, this is not heart surgery. Like, someone's life is not on the line. And there are actors who will argue you down about that. Someone's life is on the line. They need the story. I'm like, Someone's life is literally not on the line. There's not a table with someone laying on it with their chest open and their life is dependent on that's not what's happening. So because we have this amazing privilege of not having someone's life on the line, then I think it's our duty to have some fun with it and to enjoy it and to not make it this high stress filled kind of room, which I do tend to get over anxious and to stress, which is why I put such an emphasis on like getting to know the people I'm working with, because if I get to know them, it makes me less anxious, makes me less nervous. If I get to know them, I feel like people have my back because I have their back. If I get to know them, I get to understand, like, I get to not take things personally that people might throw at me, So I would say, like, get to know the folks that you're with and don't treat it like it's super serious. It's not. It's not serious. It's fun. The reason why I think we fell in love with it was because it was fun and because of the people. But even if it was the most fun, if those people that we were doing it with were absolute garbage, none of us would have returned. The only reason why most of us are in theater or in the arts is because of the people that we create, that first group of people that we created with and connected with. So I think, if I were to leave the industry with something, it would be to treat all the spaces you're in like that first group of folks, where it's fun loving and there's pressure. But at the end of the day, you're making these beautiful friendships and connections, and you go have your little cast party at Fridays, and it's all.
I have a friend who works in public relations, and she always says, it's PR, not the ER. Like, let's get a grip here.
Yes, yes.
My best friend at work and I just instituted this new thing. Every day we say, what's our not that deep of the day? And so anything that, like, we got a little bit too butthurt about, that we should probably, like, scale it back. And so we do our not that deep of the day. And it is grounding to give yourself perspective of, like, it's not important, but let's be real about what we're talking about.
And it's not like things are not going to be important to you, or like you're not going to have feelings that don't make sense for what the situation is. But it does give you perspective, and I think it is so easy in an industry that's full of like the possibility of high glamour and fame and money to get very like encapsulated in your own little bubble. But there's so much world going on around, and you have to kind of one foot in the world, one foot in your little bubble, so that you can kind of navigate what's not that deep.
And realizing the context of the world and what we're doing is a huge difference because we're all just a little blip on the earth
Yeah.
when you scale out.
I'm always like, people are dying, Kim.
Always. Well, thank you so much, Kim. We appreciate it so much.
Of course, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.